Welcome to the show, everybody, which is brought to you by ERT Radio. I'm not going to forget this time. ERT Radio, courtesy of Ron, proud sponsor of the Three Beards podcast. Go to Mixlr.com, set up your account there, follow ERT Radio, and then you can also listen not only to our show, you can listen to Into the Outer Realms, Uncensored, with David Marine, and Dimensions of the Supernatural, as well as lineups that Ron does himself. He has reading shows and he also has some music lineups. So definitely go over there, set up your account, support us, let them know you heard about there. Just comment, be part of the community. Follow ERT Radio on Facebook as well. You can, and I said you go there to the page and group and you can follow them. So ERT program. So everybody do that. So we are talking mimics. So that, are they among us? It's been told since dawn of recorded history that there's always been record of entities or things that have pretended to be us in order to gain. And that's one of the things we'll talk about. Is it something nefarious, or is it simply one of the things, like through reading Tim Swartz's book that he wrote with Sean Castile? Is it? One of the questions I'm going to pose to the guest too is, for me, is this something that, because of humanity, is this something that these entities, they're almost jealous of the fact that we actually have the potential is limited by our imagination that we have. We don't have these limitations that a lot of things have. We can become pretty much whatever we want. We can do whatever we want. We can go wherever we want. We're not bound to the sea. We're not bound to the air. We're not bound to the darkness. We can go and travel where we want to and interact with who we want to. And so that'll be one of the questions that I'll throw his way for there. So we're going to sit back. Tim Swartz, author of Mimics, The Others Among Us. He is going to be next. And we also have special guest Tom Cardos from the NCCP North Carolina Cryptid and Paranormal Project. He came up with some pretty valid reasons for why he couldn't make it last week. So he decided to make it up, and join in this one. He was excited about this topic. So he's going to be with us there. So everybody sit back, get those questions ready. We're going to go. Tim Swartz is next. Welcome to the Three Beards podcast. My name is Craig, along with Austin and Chris.
Passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century.
Let me out.
I'm afraid that is quite
justice and honor in Massachusetts colony?
See that? I clicked the wrong button there real quick. Man, that was I thought I had the cursor on the right one. I clicked it and also I'm like, wait a minute, that's the outro. All right, everybody, that was a quick show. Good night.
ERT Radio.
Look at that clock.
Look at that clock.
There's also a hat. 8:01.
There is a hat. I just look at that. It's beautiful. Thank you, Ron. It was great. A pleasure to meet Ron down in Gettysburg, which was an interesting experience to begin with.
For everybody that didn't get a chance, you can go over to our page. Brian posted it up there. I also shared, I think, to one of the other ones too. He could cut a little promo with Ron over there, so that was pretty good too. And that was. If you watch that, you'll understand the little inside joke while I was busting on myself about I'm making sure I don't forget. radio.
So I have a suggestion also. Let's get Ron on as a guest because he does readings, and we'll figure out how he can do his card. He can do a spread and then do readings for everybody in the chat.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I said, yeah. Well, after the show, we'll talk about that one. So
yeah.
Let's see. Let's not keep everybody in the green room for too long. Tom,
No.
how are you, sir?
Oh, Tom.
There he is.
Great.
So.
He was exposed to a little excessive amount of sun today, as were all of us.
Yeah, if you saw the pictures on my Facebook that I posted me with an umbrella under the sun, and then a picture of a crane, a big air conditioning unit, and then somebody goes and messages me on the post, hey, did you fly to Muniton? I'm like, no, dude, there's a crane. Look at the picture.
I commented. I said, you're going to be nice and tan for the show.
That's like saying, it's my anniversary. I'm celebrating 35 years anniversary, and someone messages happy birthday because they don't read worth a damn anymore. They just, respond to, just a quick response.
Yep. They're like, yeah, just random thing. It's just, that's why I try. It's like when I do this, I try not to use the ones that are the automatic default ones that Facebook throws up there. I try to add something to it, but let's not waste all the time with it.
No,
let's be guest here.
No.
We got Tim. How are you, sir?
Mimics.
Hey guys, thank you for having me on today. And I'll have to confess, I had to shave my own beard off just the other day because it's been so freaking hot here in Indiana, southern Indiana, that I just couldn't take it anymore. So I shaved off. And then, of course, after I did it, I was like, oh, be on the Three Beards show. So, my apologies.
We got to figure out how to get overlay like beards on people that don't have beards.
Yeah, there'll be like a green screen just as you're moving around. That's just floating beard that's trying to catch up. Yeah, that would be great. So that's the book we're talking about, Mimics,
yes.
Others Among Us. So that would be the one. It's one. First off, you and your co-author Sean Castile, excellent book, by the way, guys.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Yeah, it's. It was one of those, for me, a key to a good book is the one where obviously you don't fall asleep and beat yourself in the head with it, because I like hard copies.
Slap yourself in the face.
Yeah, there's nothing like reading one and all of a sudden you just feel smack. You're like, what the, and you got my wife over there telling me, it's like, I told you to put the book down. Yeah, so this one was one where she actually had to nudge me a few times. It's like, shouldn't she be going to sleep? And I'm like, yeah, it's like 12 o'clock and I have to be up at 5 in the morning, so, and I'm still sitting here reading. So so I've got it up there. So it's just The Others Among Us. And that's one of the things, we'll be, that's the book we're going to be talking about. So
and before we start, is there a way that I like autographed copies? It's just my personal thing. But if people want to buy a copy directly with, getting you guys to sign it somehow, is there a way to do that? Or is it just buying it through the...
Nope. No, you can you can get an autographed copy from us, and
awesome.
I can supply like an email that you can contact me, and then I can give out an address, or you can give me your address, and we'll get one to you. No problem.
Perfect. That'd be great.
Yeah, I definitely recommend this one. You guys did a really good job collecting a bunch of the tales and stuff from these events. I mean, there was a few like I really enjoyed part of the section on the selkies. I think I'm saying it right. Selkies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one's
yeah. Selkies. I mean, it's I think depending on your geolocation and how you just generally pronounce things is any way you say it probably end up being correct.
And I'm way behind on all the hellos to everybody. It just, I just saw all the comments. I said, so I'm going to have to do real quick. Hi, everybody. Okay. We'll get caught up. Because it's, like I said, we got everybody here. King, Country Boy Chris, Maria, M.A. Allen, just Laura, she's here. Just going down the road, see if Julianne, she's here. I think I'm not sure if I'm missing anybody right now. I think I got everybody. Cisco Lady Liberty is also here, so hello to you as well.
Cisco's a great person, and I definitely would love you to talk to her as well. She does her own show on YouTube called Journey Through the Gate, or Paranormal Portal podcast, but she would definitely be a wonderful guest to have on. She's very talented.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah.
Very cool.
So yeah, this yeah, and then also Journey Through the Gate Paranormal. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yep. That's Cisco.
Yep.
She's great.
Yep. Just that one just commented on there too. So that's double check. All right. Yes. So first off, you and Sean, how did you guys come about getting together for this collaboration?
Well, and I should also say that it's not just Sean and myself who wrote this book. We have some just absolutely fantastic writers who contributed to this book. People like Paul Dale Roberts, Nigel Watson from the UK, Paul Eno, Scott Corrales. Just all of these people are just fantastic writers, and I'm always so happy when we can get them to join us to put together a book like Mimics. But as for Sean and myself, and really a lot of these other writers as well, we're all from the Timothy Green Beckley School of Publishing. And what I mean by that is that we all wrote books for and with Tim Beckley when he was still alive, for his Global Communications Inner Light publications. And that's how Sean and I met, and a lot of these other writers that we have for Mimics as well. Because after Tim passed away, we all decided that we would like to continue putting out books along the same lines as what Beckley did. Now, we could never quite, there's just no way that any of us could quite be the P.T. Barnum of book publishing and magazine publishing that Tim Beckley was. But I think a lot of his ideas, a lot of the types of books that he liked to publish, we like investigating and writing about as well. So that's how we decided to collaborate and start putting out books on our own. Before Mimics, we had a book called Alien Artifacts, which was a collection, again, similar to Mimics, where we looked into the stories of alien artifacts, crash flying saucers, pieces of metal found under curious situations. And artifacts doesn't necessarily have to mean little pieces of jangled up metal. It can be trees knocked down, people coming down with mysterious illnesses after close contacts with UFOs, things like that. And that book ended up being so popular that we wanted to go further. So that's where Mimics come about. And Mimics has gotten such a great response that, again, we're going to take it and hopefully produce more books in the near future.
Yeah. That was one of the nice collection about it. And that was one of the questions I had for you through this research is, out of most of the ones that you guys compiled, which ones do you feel have, because for me, I always look at it like the person that's just walking down the street that's not involved in the communities. How do you convince them that, Bigfoot's real, Dogman's real, aliens, you go through these things. Which of these Mimic cases do you feel probably has the best chance of being like Exhibit A evidence when you have to sit down with somebody and say, you know what, I really think if you guys dig into this one, you're going to find some stuff that's going to be really hard for you to say, you're right, there is something here that's strange.
Yeah, see, that's the problem with a lot of these cases. And with practically everything that we like to talk about, from UFOs to cryptid creatures, is trying to nail down that evidence to convince somebody. Because like all of these things, when it comes to mimics, and let me define that. Mimics are things, beings, intelligent whatevers that look like us, act like us, but it's obvious from people who have had these encounters that they're not dealing probably with human beings. All right. But boy, which of these cases, because there's so many good.
I know. Let me just make it easy for you.
Yeah.
Well, it's, because it goes back to, like, I did the promo here for it. I was like, it goes back to earliest recorded history. There's always been these from the Djinn to the Djinn, however everybody wants to pronounce it, where to even them, where there's this, it seems like a lot of these entities, these creatures, whatever you want to describe them as, they seem to have this really innate, desire to, like your book says, mimic humanity, become humanity, like the Little Mermaid. I want to be, you want to be where the people are. They say they want to go from what they are, and that's where. So that question, like, do you think there is something to that just there's this almost an inherent, like, jealousy of the fact that we're not hindered?
Possibly. A lot of these cases, and you talk about, you can go back thousands of years and find these kinds of encounters. I mean, people used to call them, gods, demons, angels, fairies, good people. I mean, now a lot of times people would call them, aliens or extraterrestrials. And, that's one of the big questions in the book, whether or not any of these things are real or all of them, are a possibility. If you would ask that question to, say, like Whitley Strieber, who has had years of alleged contact with some kind of unknown beings, early on, he thought that he was dealing naturally with extraterrestrials, because his abduction experiences were, pretty much the epitome of what other people have been experiencing, associated with UFOs or UAPs, as they now want to call them.
Now referred to.
Yeah, but if you read Whitley's latest books, he's now saying that whatever these intelligence are, that saying that they're aliens or extraterrestrials is probably too easy of an answer. He thinks that you're probably dealing with things that exist probably outside of our reality, in maybe a place of no time, no time and space, and he feels that these things are initiating contact with people over the years because they want to experience what we experience, time and space. He says that where they exist, time and space is open up in front of them. They can see the past, present, and future all at once. So there's no surprise. Wow. There's no surprises to them. So he says that they want to experience time. They want to have that surprise of what's going to happen in the future, that sort of thing. My opinion is that with these things, we're probably kind of like people dealing with all of the above, because you have some that seem to be wanting to help mankind, help humanity. I mean, you see that from the oldest written records, where these beings would appear and instruct people, mathematics, agriculture, things like that. They seem to be guardians, offering guidance to people. And then you have some that are basically tricksters, that they try to do their best to mess with us in the way that they can. And then there are some that just seem to be kind of ambivalent one way or the other, that they don't necessarily seek out contact with people, but when they do, then I suppose, like people, it just all depends on the mood that they're in, that day, whether or not they'll, help somebody, hurt somebody, or play a joke on them and send them out to play in traffic.
So, quick question for you: in the book, 'cause I don't have the book, but I do a lot of research in all the subject. What percentage is would be like a doppelganger mimic versus like I know Bigfoot's a great mimic, Dogman's a definitely a great mimic. I'm sure there are other cryptids that do mimicking, but sometimes like you have that doppelganger side of the coin.
Mhm.
That's you doing your own, that they take on your personality and everything. So where would you think the percentages? I mean, of course, you may not have an accurate number. I'm just trying to figure that out.
Well, and Paul Dale Roberts has a number of really great stories, in this book about doppelgangers, and he usually has them in the form of hauntings, where people are experiencing, say, their house is being haunted, and whatever the entity or entities is that's haunting this house will actually produce doppelgangers of the people who live in that house to another
Oh, that's
family member, and like all of these, I would say that with the doppelgangers, you may be talking like maybe 5%, and that's just a guesstimate on my part for all of these things, because there are so many. And I mean, you listed, a lot of these different things that we kind of throw into this book when it comes to mimics, because I mean, you have the entirely human looking mimics, things that if you would run into one on the street, for the most part, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a normal human. And then you have the possibility that, say like, and we list like Bigfoot and the other hairy hominids as a possibility of a mimic, more along the lines that we discussed, that some of these mimics, or the others as we call them, could be a cousin species to Homo sapiens. As far as we know, we're the only Homo, intelligent hominid species left on the planet. I mean, you have Neanderthals and the Denisovians and groups like that. I mean, close enough related to us that we could actually interbreed with them. Well, I mean, there's the possibility that we may not be the only hominid species left on the planet. That there could be another human species on this planet that has remained hidden from us. A long time ago, they decided that they're not going to deal with us anymore. And at first they went off into the forest. And then, once we started, encroaching on that, they went up to the mountains. And eventually, once they started developing technology like us, they went underground, under the ocean, things like that. So, I mean, we discussed that as a possibility, with, say like, Sasquatch being an example, though like a wild man example of the possibility that, we're not alone species wise on this planet. And I don't know if that answered your question, because I kind of went off on a track there. We were talking about doppelgangers, weren't we?
Well, no. Well, a doppelganger is usually, it's a mimic.
Right.
And that's basically what a doppelganger is.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been in a negative fashion. But the reason why, because if you have an experience with, let's say, a Bigfoot or a Dogman, which I've had both, there are plenty of cases where they will hear you talking and be able to pick your voice up and mimic it.
Yes.
And sometimes, depending on, I would say their mood or their intentions, not always good, they may try to lure you to someplace. So that's what I was asking. But doppelgangers have always been in a negative fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't want to, you don't want to cross the streams with doppelgangers. So I think one would be nefarious versus something that's kind of like just doing what they want to do. Playing around.
You talk about the mimicking of voices. I mean, and that is something that, again, I mean, we have seen that for centuries. I mean, people used to think that like the fairies are good people, would do that. That they would call your name from the woods or mimic the voice of, say, like a loved one, to try to lure you out of your home and into the woods. But we still see that same kind of phenomena today. And, like you said, a lot of times people associate it with possibly, Bigfoot or Dogman or some other type of cryptid creatures. But, it's just always interesting that as you do the research throughout history, the same kind of phenomena just keeps coming back over and over again, which, that kind of, that kind of takes me a little bit back to, a previous question on if any of this stuff can actually be, used to convince somebody. What I say to people is that if all of the stuff that we're talking about is crap, all right, that it's all just hoaxes or whatever, then why does it keep repeating itself over and over and over again throughout time, throughout different places on the planet where, people have never heard about this kind of stuff before, yet are reporting the same thing?
Well,
So,
it's interesting because, and you're right. I mean, I do believe, and Craig has mentioned it too. Why do we go through all this trouble to do something when something, usually when there's so much going on, there's some reality to it. But it's very interesting if you listen to a lot of the people in Appalachia and whoever have been throughout the Appalachian Mountains, they're all told, it goes back for great grandfathers. You hear your name called in the woods, go back. You hear any strange sounds, you leave. Or you don't, if you've seen something, you didn't see something, and you start working the other way. So there's some history to this and some proof. Now, again, let's get into David Paulides' missing 411. Will these people disappear right in front of you? What part of this is, using the mimic to pull them in and then do whatever they do with them? Usually they don't wind up being alive thereafter. You'll find their bones out, someplace. So it depends on like the situation, but you're right. Year after year after year, millennium, we've heard the same subject, but we're all crazy, right?
I think that kind of ties in a little bit to what Julie was, asking right there. Is if you've ever, I don't know if you've personally had an experience or if you've just got some experience through your research of where somebody has used a spirit or energetic presence as a mimic. Which it almost seems in a way, kind of almost like a sorcerer, sorcerer, you use to me, but I don't know. I mean, it was a set for you.
Well, and that's something that Paul Eno, one of our writers, discusses in his book, because he refers to a lot of these things as parasites. That there are creatures that, and it's difficult to define, exactly where they come from, astral planes, whatever, but close enough to our own reality that they can come in and maybe they live within our reality, but are not, they don't have material bodies, most of the time, like we do. But he says that these things can be actually manipulated for a while, at least, by somebody who has the know-how, has the either psychic abilities or magical abilities, and that can be questionable. But he also postulates that he thinks that that we do live in a multiverse, kind of like Marvel or in DC Comics, and that a lot of these things are actually bleed overs from one of these other realities. He thinks that most say like hauntings, people who see, ghosts of a loved ones or things like that. It's because in another reality, that loved one isn't dead. They're still alive, but somehow under the right condition that you can see them. So, when it comes to, say, like poltergeist activity, Paul thinks that these are parasites, that they exist using the fear that these things can generate in a household. Because when people start getting scared in a haunted house, they produce that fear energy, which is, like candy to these things. And a poltergeist is also very intuitive and listens to everything that everybody says. So if people start talking about, oh, we've got demons in our house, well, then sure enough, these things will start acting like demons. If you're really religious, you start hanging crosses up on your wall. Well, those are the things that the poltergeist will start messing with. Turn them upside down, tear them down, set them on fire, and that just elicits more of that fear response. And the poltergeist is just like, bring it on. I love it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've always said, I come up, and I've talked about this numerous times on other shows, but when people talk about shadow people and the shadow people coming in, the fear, and I try to explain to them, like, what you're getting is a creature that's most likely interdimensional. Okay. And the reason why there's fear there and you're so afraid, think Monsters Inc. That's their food source. And literally it just gives you the energy, because the minute you aren't afraid, they disappear. And I always tell people, well, what am I supposed to do? I'm like, don't be afraid of it. It'll go away, because if it comes up against a challenge, it doesn't want to deal with that. But this is exactly, I mean, I like the whole theory about parasites, because that would be a parasite.
Yeah.
And that would explain so much.
Well, Paul says, and let me finish this point here before I forget about it. Paul says that one of the best ways to tackle a poltergeist haunting is for everybody to sit around the house and tell jokes to each other. He says that will quash a poltergeist activity in short order. I mean, it may not it may try to come back again, but as long as you just kind of take that flippant attitude, then that there's not a food source.
When you said it'll come back, do you think they work in numbers? Do you think you could have like 2 or 3 in one house and they collaborate together, or do you think they act alone in your research?
A little from column A, a little from column B. Oftentimes, you do deal, I think, with a single entity that at times can make itself appear like a multiple of entities. But then again, as Paul has written about, some of these infestations involve a number. Usually there would be one that's kind of like the leader of the rest, and the other ones are like subordinates. But a lot of times, Paul says that like the stronger, more mature beings, parasites, tend to work alone. And Paul has had personal experience too. I mean, he was actually when he was younger, he was actually at a haunted poltergeist infested house where he was with the young girl that was being targeted. And they actually saw these things start to materialize and come towards her. And he put himself in between these things and her, and actually reached out to push one away. And he said he could actually feel it. He said it felt like bird bones almost underneath the flesh. He says, but he said that, I mean, it was very, it was kind of like it was there one moment and then gone the next. But he said it was there long enough that he could actually feel it as he grabbed and pushed it away.
There is weight. I mean, energy does have mass to it. And when energy manifests, especially something that's really strong, it can pull from multiple areas, including outside. I mean, there's energy around us 24/7. Someone mentioned Tesla in there. I think it was Cisco. And, you could start drawing energy from that if you're that talented. So, but if you've ever experienced them, there's residuals. There's residual stuff. There's what do they call them? Ectoplasm, if you want to call it that. But it's really interesting, especially when a spirit kind of or an entity goes through you or past you. Well, for me, I mean, I have a little bit of whatever gifts, and you just kind of get it. You're like, whoa, what was that for a moment? But that must have been an interesting thing for him. Hopefully it came out, it worked out well.
Now, Tom, you had a question.
Yeah, I had a question, or more like a something to throw in. Like you were mentioning, I got two things. You were mentioning parasites. Well, if you remember the original Poltergeist movie, when the father was drinking that Jim Beam or tequila, and he swallowed that little worm. But when that thing kind of possessed him and it came out of him, it kind of looked very parasitic and like ghoulishly. And then on top of that, I was going to mention the main mimicry is you got your reptilians. Which they shapeshift into humans. They pretty much take over our bodies, and I won't go too much into that because I don't want to get us shut down. No. But they harvest something from humans, like you were mentioning, from fear, and the humans project fear, and what they get out of the humans starts with an A. I won't say the rest, but that was very interesting that you kind of mentioned that. What they generate that power over fear, and those beings do the same thing, but it's something derived from the body, from the brain.
And just going on what Tom was saying, that thing for humans, for most that starts with an A, but there's a chrome, and I'm not going to say any more of it, from children. And well, I don't want to get into that zone, but it is a powerful substance, apparently.
Yeah, they get high off of it. It's pretty much like an aphrodisiac for them.
Yeah.
I have two responses to this. Okay. I've had a lot of people approach me from this book wanting to know if I think that there are people out there now, public officials, who are mimics. And that's, it's one of these situations where it's just like, the most of the book that the cases that we write about in our book tend to be more one-off situations, people who have brief encounters with these things, though we do somewhat talk about this scenario. But it's something that it's difficult to try to approach right now, because there are too many people very willing to, for political purposes, as you well know, to say, yes, this confirms our belief that this certain group of people, this certain political group, are all mimics, and then get the guns out and all hell breaks loose. All right. So and that's not the purpose of this book. We're not going in that kind of direction, because face it, I mean, you start falling down that rabbit hole, and and then pretty soon you're seeing reptilians all over the place
on a plane. On a plane.
Hey, but I'm glad you brought that up, because see, now I've been trying to find out, because that initial story, she came, she came down the aisle saying that the person sitting next to her, wasn't real, and then it was a little bit later that people were saying that she saw a reptilian, and I've yet to be able to confirm that, because nobody has ever been able to interview her that I can find that's been properly vetted. So but that's that is an interesting story, that here she is saying that the person next to her isn't real somehow, and I wish that there was more information on just exactly what her experience was.
But before that whole episode really blew up, I saw that days before, because I saw a video of a kid who was on the plane who said he's tried to make this video numerous times and they wouldn't allow him. And he was sitting there, he was with the headphones on, that started to take place, and he took them off and he was paying attention. The woman's doing her thing. And then he said he turned back to the guy and looked in the back, and he kind of made eye contact with the guy in the hoodie. And he said the guy blinked. He gave like a cocky wink, like, like that or whatever. And he goes, he turned away. He thought it was a little bit cocky, and then he said, "Wait a minute." He didn't blink like I'm blinking right now. He blinked this way.
Mm-hmm.
And someone else said that. Now, here's something that's very interesting about that. Someone has pulled the video from that and looked, and this woman slowed her down. And I got to be honest, I've done a lot of investigation. A couple of us are working on it. But she may, whoever that is, may have been wearing a silicone mask because her neckline is just a little bit too bigger than it should be. And it's not a necklace because I know the material of having a wife and 2 daughters. If you're wearing a necklace, you'll see the outline in the necklace. Now, if she was wearing a silicone mask and she got caught doing whatever by that person, she needs to get off that plane. So what better way than to have a distraction? This person isn't real. Smoke and mirrors, smoke and mirrors. She gets off the plane. I have to go to the ladies' room. Goes in there, quickly takes the mask off, puts it in her bag, and walks back out. And now she's not this woman in the plane anymore. She's somebody else.
Somebody different, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's okay. Now
I can show you the video.
I need to research and vet that story a little bit more.
Research it. It's very interesting.
There's definitely a lot of stuff with those silicone masks too, because there's also talks. I mean, I've seen videos on all kinds of platforms of a certain person that rhymes with Bo Seiden, and it shows a silicone mask on that person with the neckline and the ears, and it's like it blows you away, you know.
And Camel Toe. There's also someone named Camel Toe. Well, it sounds like that. That was sitting there, and literally, you can see it.
Yep.
And I mean, it begs to wonder who the heck's under those masks and why are they using them? You know.
I don't know.
Well, you know, and the thing that you know we discuss with mimics is that whatever these things are, they don't need silicone masks. There we go. So now, and unfortunately, you know, the resolution on a lot of the videos that I've seen, it's really hard to see, you know, like where this mask would be.
Well,
so now the person in the green hood there, so that's supposed to be the person that she's referring to,
right? And then the person that came forward, who said he was a 33-degree Freemason, blah blah, with tattoos all over his face. As Chris and I are laughing right now. The guy didn't know. Part of the expression, shit from Shinola. Okay, and
that's what all people that are involved in the cabal would say.
Yeah, well, it's true. So I actually have the video. It's being sent to my computer right now. Greg, if you want, I can bring that up, and we can. That's what everybody.
For anybody that knows the joke, Chris and Brian are Freemasons, and I like to bust on them all the time that they secretly are harbingers. Yeah. And so I always bust on them that they're keeping the secret information from all of us, and so when you hear those comments, that's what it is. It's like, you know, he was like, that wouldn't be. I'm like, yeah, exactly. That's, you know, if you're part of the Illuminati, it's like, you're not going to admit it. You're going to say these people are crazy.
That's right.
We've invited him to join many times where you get an apron and a ring.
That's what the Illuminati always does. They promise you all this stuff for, you know, all this fun. See, it all fits together.
Well, you know, I'm sharing it right now just so you can see what I was talking about. So whoever's in the chat room, if you want to, now I'll play it. It's not that long a video. We can just go briefly, but if you look at her neckline, it looks like she's wearing a silicone mask, folks.
That's not a necklace.
No, that is not a necklace, and
that's like a line.
Yep, and let me say it. So a mimic, she is a mimic in this because she's mimicking somebody, not themselves. And if this is the case, what a great way of smoke and mirrors to point things out, deflect, right? I have a mug from people that work in the government, and it's the counterintelligence, and it says point fingers and make counter accusations. So I'll stop that now. You don't have to go through the whole thing, but
deflection is the greatest disguise, period. But my question is, if she disguised herself like that and she came back as a man, how is she gonna cover things up if you know what I mean?
No, but she doesn't even have to cover things up. All she has to do is, you don't know, that's a pretty big bag. So she's going to have clothing in there.
Yeah.
And she's going to be able to swap that out, put on some, take those off, put leggings on, and then put another shirt on top of it, and then come out looking like, a deformed woman or something that's like, not
okay,
as
but still a woman, not a man. That's because I was reverting to a man. She couldn't come back looking like a man, or she'd have to get duct tape for something.
Yeah, lots of duct tape.
Unless she's wearing a prosthetic, which is silicone, which
True,
will look the same way.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of variables here, but this is what we're talking about when we talk about your stuff, Tim, with the mimics.
Mm-hmm.
You can have everybody on that plane that witnessed this said, yeah, that's the woman, right? And they're not paying attention to the neckline. They're like, well, who's this crazy broad?
Right. Exactly.
She's a Karen on a plane.
Yes.
Karen.
But I also found it. Someone pointed out that she was doing this type of thing, which is kind of like Baphomet.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like I don't know anybody that really uses when they talk. Nobody that I know of, but
well, and the curious thing about this case is that usually in these types of situations, I mean, in less than a day's time, they're identified. You know what their name is, where they live, where they work, and I haven't seen anything along those lines about this woman.
But if this person is Govey undercover and whatever. You don't know what ID she has in her pocket. She can go in the bathroom, come out, and say, "I gotta go," whatever, and be somebody else.
Yep.
Russian spy.
Duh.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Russian spy. My, what?
There you go.
Blame it on the Russians.
That's Mission Impossible. I thought that was from Team America because they did something similar to that.
Yeah. No,
it's always like when they pull the mask up. That's Old Man Witherspoon from the Lighthouse.
Now that you said that, that's really going to get derailing. But looking back, that has got to be one of the worst cartoons ever. Everybody's running around. It's like, did they not forget that just the day before that it was the old Farmer Johnson that was running around scaring people off the property? Yeah. So wouldn't your first instinct be to grab be like Naked Gun or something like that he was doing to the Queen, trying to whip, just go like this, like, why won't this come on? Yes. Yeah, that would be the first thing,
That's
that would be the first instinct. Yeah. No.
Yes.
I digress.
Futurama did a take on that where they were all played, like the kind of like clones of the Scooby Gang with George Takei as the villain, and at the end they were like, why were you doing this? Was it because the new basketball stadium was going to ruin your business? And he goes, no, it's because I'm seriously mentally ill.
It is such craziness going on. But then again, you never trust a young guy with an ascot. I mean, I would never. If I saw somebody with an ascot, I'd be like, literally. We went to our oldest daughter's teacher for a teacher meeting, and he was wearing like an ascot, and he goes, "Hey, gang," and I'm like, "Is this a Scooby-Doo episode? What the hell says that? Who's Velma?" Carrot Top handler.
Derek Galloway said she was Carrot Top's handler. Carrot Top, the stand-up comedian, was on board that flight and commented afterwards that he witnessed it. So and I thought, well, maybe she just saw him, because if you look at him now, it looks like he's had a little bit too much plastic surgery or both.
I watched one of his old routines. I kid you not. I looked over at my wife and said, how the hell did this guy ever become popular? These routines were so bad, with the stuff that he'd pull out of the truck. I'm like, how did this even take off? I mean, this is just one, like, we're talking CCTV, public broadcasting. You're at some community college doing the, film tech, and just, you're doing the trunk. I'm just like, wow, how did he become a Vegas act? I mean, that's impressive just in itself.
Well, I mean, he's old Diesel now, but every time you look at Carrot Top now, he looks like Rocky Dennis from Mask.
Yeah.
Remember that chair? Like, I wish you would take off that mask. He's not the prettiest guy in the room, but then again, if you have a lot of money and you're Quasimodo, trust me, all these models will be like, I want to date him. So it works.
He sold his soul to the devil for fame and fortune. Look at Robert Johnson and Crossroads. It's all there. Look at Bob Dylan.
Oh yeah, well,
they all admit it.
All right. All right. I apologize to anybody if this upsets you.
Yeah.
Oh.
I gotta see. My computer is a lot slower than what you guys.
I know. That's why I pull. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
There he is.
So maybe she saw him and was like,
"That's a handsome woman you got there, sir."
That guy's not real.
Mouth. She got a pert mouth.
That guy's not real.
Sorry, Tim. We are now officially.
Oh, he knew what he was getting into. He's been on here before, so this is we had him. Yeah, we had him on for Gef the Talking Mongoose and stuff. Yeah, he's quite
the Talking Mongoose, huh?
Oh, dude, okay. That's a plug for one of his other books. You have to get that one. That is a fantastic story.
Is it like Richard Gere gerbil? No.
No. It's strictly a family reading for this.
Oh, okay. Whoa.
Yeah.
The Richard Gere book. I mean, that's the other one we're working.
Yeah, no, that would have been a little bit tough.
Yeah,
read Richard Gere.
Yeah, that's a whole nother talking story. Yeah, if you ever get like I said, check it out. I said it is a very interesting story. It's for especially people that are really into like the one-off cryptid encounters, the strange stories. Gef the Talking Mongoose is definitely one of those, because here's this one where you had a family that was absolutely convinced they had this creature that was not only communicating them, assisting them. I mean, it was really cool. It was like you can go back in the archives and you can watch it for us. But definitely support him. Go buy the book. It's right there. Just while you're in Amazon, pick up the book, help him out.
Yeah.
Yes, I encourage that.
Yes.
About the HLAs that's in the book, because that was really interesting me when I read up on the HLAs, the human-looking aliens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was right from the very beginning of the whole modern day UFO phenomena, when you had the contactee movement, which was people like George Adamski and Howard Menger, people like that who said that they were being contacted by extraterrestrials from planets within our solar system. Of course, you have to realize this was the early 1950s, when the idea that Venus and Mars especially could be habitable. All right. So they claimed that they were in contact with these what we would now refer to as like the tall Nordics. They were almost always very humanoid looking, long, a beautiful hair, beautiful features, both the men and women, and so human looking, like a lot of these other cases that we just discuss, that these things could infiltrate our society and live amongst us, completely unnoticed, and that actually was kind of a fear somewhat within the government and military, that while not right out believing these contactee cases, wondered if maybe there wasn't some truth, to these stories, that humankind could be infiltrated that easy.
They had remember Valiant Thor, right?
Right.
Valiant Thor. Yeah. I mean, that was human-esque, very tall individual, and they did. I forgot where he was from, or he says he was from
Venus. He supposedly
was he a Venetian?
He was supposedly a Venetian. That was Dr. Frank Strange's stories, and that was actually the guy's name, Strange's.
Wow.
But
Venetians, I think, the people that hail from Venice, though. I don't know if we want to confuse those two.
Well, if they have some good food and drink, good food, drink, and cars, we're good.
Now, so kind of while you're on the Valiant Thor, what do you kind of get everybody's kind of take on this? Like, what do you think the possibility of those time travel individuals, the ones that there's always those cases of the people that just pop up saying, I'm from the future, that they could be one of these non-human, like alien type thing posing in that one. Because, obviously if they're from a different time, because time for all, as far as we understand through this, like, is a human construct. Like, we're one of the few that actually think stuff linearly like this, as we go through. So to an alien race that would be able to jump back and forth, they would have absolute knowledge of the future and be able to come back and say, hey, in 20 years, blah, 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 you are going to have, this happen. When it happens, we're like, oh my God, Bob, the time traveler was right. Well, it was actually Bob, the alien, that would just, he was pretending to be the time traveler. So what does everybody think about that? I mean, do you think there is a possibility that these time traveler stories could be these guys?
I'll answer, but I'll let everybody else have the chance first. Nobody else is going to say anything. Yeah?
I've seen some of these guys, and some of it's very interesting. But if you really were from the future, you'd be able to go boom, 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 and set some mile markers and like, okay, this guy's been pretty accurate. Most of them have it. Now, I'm going to say something different too, where it's in the defense of them. The future is fluid, and at any moment it can change. So maybe things didn't go that direction, but there are tons of people that are saying, hey, I'm from 2052 or 2048, and this is going to happen, and that's going to happen. If you have a pretty good idea of what's going on in the world and how to assess it, you can come up to some of these conclusions as well. But I'm not buying it.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the movie, the 12 Monkeys. The guy Cole, he was a time traveler, and he was trying to diffuse a nationwide, worldwide epidemic.
That was a good movie.
Great movie. But I was also going to talk about really quick these clones that possibly got made by the government are mimicking people. If you remember, about 20 years ago, they started DNA studies saying, hey, send in your DNA. We'll tell you your ancestry. What are they doing with this DNA? They could be taking your DNA and making clones out of your DNA and putting them out there.
Just so you know, when you just said that, Blackstone has bought, I think they own both DNA houses now, 21andMe and Ancestry. And that is absolutely scary that they do.
That's why I said that.
So, I mean, you might be onto something here. You know how you see another person and you be like, you look just like, I mean, and her name is completely different, but you like, and then they'd be like, oh, I must have a twin around here. What are those? What if those are actually really the cloned people? And they probably will never be in the same location because they might have like a device that tells them, oh, you're too close or something. But there's some people that look just like somebody else. You're like, dude, you look just like Bob that works at the store, and you're like,
or unbeknownst to yourself or the clone, there is a piece of almost like the Q, a collective that even though you clone somebody, you still take certain information with you that is within the genetic code, and you're unaware of it. So that's why you would be like, oh my God, you look like this guy I know from the Three Beards. His name is Chris. And you'd be like, I am Chris. But besides that, that's where it could get to a strange spot where you're not, every time you make a new generation, maybe what percentage of that is pulling that information to the next clone. And then maybe that's the reason why there's a connection where sometimes you have deja vu.
Perfect.
Well, this is really deep. If you haven't smoked your joint yet, it's going to get good.
Now's the time.
Good point.
Well, there has been stories of clones for years, and I think back to writings from John Keel and Jim Moseley from stuff that was going on in the 60s. Where somebody who was living in Jersey City,
oh God,
and was writing for Jim Moseley's Saucer News magazine, And he said that several times he saw people on the street coming towards their apartment where he and his wife were living, that looked like one person at one time looked like Jim Mosley, and the other person looked like John Keel. And he said, I can't remember which one. One of them was actually in the middle of the street, like directing traffic. Like you'd see somebody who was, like drunk,
Really,
or hopped up, in the middle of the street, this way and stuff. But he said that he actually thought that Jim Mosley was coming to visit and John Keel was coming to visit. Two separate occasions. So I mean, this is something new. And I mean, the whole DNA testing, like you said, I mean, that's happened within the last 20, 15 years. So there's the possibility that cloning technology has been around a lot longer than we think. By whom? Who knows? I mean, government or military, have this ability, or or some other group, the others, like we're talking about. And that's one of the aspects that we discuss in the book, is the shape-shifting ability of at least some of these things,
right?
And whether or not, because like we said, they look human, but do they look human only because they can look human, and their normal appearance would be something completely different? And we referred to "They Live" in the book because that's a great example, right, if you're using the extraterrestrial hypothesis.
but
somebody read the book. That's how he knew how to put this picture up.
So speaking of which, so doing the research with a lot of UFO and abductees and experiences and whatever, through that experience, people that are very much aware that they're continually getting abducted. They're not only getting abducted by extraterrestrials, but they're also getting abducted by the U.S. government. And that's coming from them. I'm just spewing things from themselves. And we already know that within the transfer supposed agreement with technology, part of that is cloning. And most of the small grays you see, the 4-footers or below, they are extraterrestrial biological entities. They are clones. They're worker bees. They go out. They're not very bright. They're about 80 on the IQ quotient scale. And they're the ones that crash a lot of UFOs. But they are the worker bees. And we have supposedly, I can't prove it, but this is from people that have had their experiences, we're able to clone and continue to clone. So the possibility that we're cloning people through some of this DNA for whatever purpose is wonderful. I mean, maybe if we clone somebody, we figured out a way where they don't need to be fed, normal foods, and they can survive with just basic nutrition. That it's easily accessible for everybody.
Yep. A hybrid. If you were an alien and you wanted to overtake or be part of a country, you would clone and hybridize the people so your DNA can live among and thrive instead of dying off in that environment.
That's what most abductions, when they're taking men and women and they're seeding and they're mixing with alien extraterrestrials to create these offspring, they're doing it because their world and their species is done. They've maxed out and they're trying to recapture their species. That's 99.9% of the reason for the abduction. And so if you go to bio class, 1 second, Chris, if you get human to alien, you'll have an outcome of human alien, alien human, human human, alien alien. And eventually you could actually weed out through multiple compilations and just get alien, which is the extension of that species.
It's funny you say that, Emmy-Award. Maybe that is something like that's coming out.
Yeah, I don't completely buy the whole extraterrestrial alien UFO hypothesis. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not happening, but I think that is rather a kind of a simplistic explanation to what's actually going on, which I have no idea. But it's very easy, I think, to convince a society that we're being visited by extraterrestrials from other planets. when a lot of that kind of evidence is it's hard to pin down. So it's like your original question. I mean, like what of these cases can we use to actually convince people? Well, I mean, trying to convince people that UFOs absolutely represent extraterrestrial visitors from other planets is the evidence is really lacking. I mean, I think that while not a complete explanation, I mean the time traveler idea of the extraterrestrial UFO phenomena is just as likely, I think, as visitors from different solar systems or galaxies. You had asked earlier about these time traveler stories. The majority of the ones that that you're seeing on YouTube or TikTok, where the guy with his face blurred out is I'm a time traveler from 2265.
Yeah,
bullshit. It's all right. And I hope that this isn't going on a platform where I can't say that.
Oh no, you're good. You're
okay.
good.
All right. Well, but it is. Those kind of stories. I mean, for entertainment purposes only. And the convincing evidence that they have is like some kind of blurry photograph of Los Angeles underwater or of a city on Mars. It's like, okay, if you're a time traveler from the 23rd century, that's the best you can do is a Polaroid. I mean, you haven't gotten past Polaroid pictures yet in the 23rd century. But that being said, though, there are a lot of examples in the UFO phenomena, and some of the things that that you were talking about with the whole abduction phenomena and the possible harnessing of our genetic makeup to save a dying race would be something that I think that future humans would come up with in order to kind of mask their operatives, going into the past to try to do such a thing. If you're from the future and you have time travel technology, from history that this was an era when people were seeing UFOs. So, if you go back into the past and you're seeing, you say, yeah, we're from Alpha Centauri. Yeah, that's it. That's our story, and we're sticking to it. And a lot of these encounters that people have with these beings, they're told very interesting personal information about what's going to happen to them in the future. And you would think that if these were space travelers, explorers from another planet, how would they know that Joe is going to live in such and such house 10 years from now, or that his Uncle Bob is going to die in a car accident? And these are actual stories that I'm basing this on. Their Uncle Bob is going to be killed in an accident 2 years from now, that sort of thing. And again, I mean, the time travel hypothesis doesn't exclude the extraterrestrial hypothesis, because more than likely, if you're an extraterrestrial race and you develop the technology to travel the vast distances between galaxies or solar systems, it's probably going to involve time travel one way or the other. So, there could very well be that at some point in our future that everybody gets together, our future generations, extraterrestrial races, all of these guys that with time travel capability are then able to, go back and forth in time. Thus the confusion, people will see these time travelers that look extraterrestrial. Well, that's because they are extraterrestrial. Others will see people that look like people. Well, it's because they are people.
It's interesting because I have a couple of individuals who have come to some of our meetings, and their children, who should not know any of this because they weren't in it, children, are telling them, you're not my real mother, but I still love you. And it's like, okay, well, who's your real mother? And they've been drawing pictures of reptilians and being talked about going into space. They're not connected to any of this type of stuff where they would get it from a third party. Also, I mean, and they've seen some things as well after these announcements have been made by their own children. So I think there is something to say about extraterrestrials. But as far as there was a great video, whether it's true or not is interesting, but it's some of these grays that are being interrogated, and they're saying that we're you in the future. That's what we've become. Now, if you take in consideration what happened the last couple of years, and some of the children born with these black eyes, and we're literally changing the molecular compound of our bodies. Who knows? I mean, that's not that strong, not that difficult to leap to alter human beings into a certain way, and then they become grays.
Also, no compassion with these new babies as well. These infants,
Nothing.
No compassion, no human nature ability, kind of.
They're just there.
There.
Kind of like your drunk uncle at Thanksgiving. He's just there.
Well, it could very much be like, I don't know if you've ever read Arthur C. Clarke's Childhood End, but it's an older science fiction novel, and it starts out with the mass landing of giant spaceships over every sea, and then mankind is taken with the help of these creatures who never reveal themselves into like a new utopia, poverty, sickness, all things of the past. All right. When these creatures finally reveal themselves, they look like the medieval version of the devil. They have giant wings, red skin, horns, tail, things like that. And they reveal that we are the last generation on this planet, that the next generation of children will be the new race. They don't have anything to do with it. This is just natural evolution. And when these children are born, they become a hive mind. And anybody who is still alive on Earth at this point is evacuated by these extraterrestrials. And this hive mind basically destroys the planet for its energy. And then that hive mind goes off into, a new realm of reality. So we could be seeing a situation like that coming about. Now, maybe not as fast as it happened, because this was like within a 50-year period in the book. But I always found that interesting because, we always think that evolution is, like a very slow thing. That, but we're learning now more and more that evolution actually happens very quickly. And the next generation of Homo sapiens, whatever that would be, may be so completely different from us as that we would be like chimps or gorillas to them.
Exactly.
Yeah, simple adaptation. The Industrial Revolution, the moth population is the one. Anybody that takes biology and stuff, that's one of the first core things. One of the things they teach you is they're like for adaptation, because people it took so long. It's like, no, it can actually happen quick because suddenly have all this pollution, all the dark colored moths survive, the light colored moths get eaten. And so now you have this and then when everything got cleaned up, now the dark ones are the ones that are exposed, they get devoured, and the light populated. So it was one of those, and you saw the populations decrease, and you could see these things just in almost literally real time, these populations. And it's the same way with with technology, like we just talked. I think it was, I want to say it was M.A. Allen that brought it up, about the Neuralink. This could overnight change things because
it's going to be bad.
Because you think about it, like right now, the five of us sitting here right now, yes, we got Google, I've got it on the screen here, I can type something out, but what place are we going to have if somebody comes on the screen, they've got Neuralink attached to themselves? We'll have no use because this person can give you the information like that.
Yep, right in their head. And it's funny you say that. I was going to mention Neuralink too. If you go back into the the book of the Bible, it mentions the mark of the beast is in in the person's forehead. Well, what are they putting in? Well, where does Neuralink go? It goes in your forehead.
Yep. As long as they give me the lottery numbers for the Powerball Mega Millions, I'm good.
I'm good.
And it ties right in there with the mimics because that person is going to look. There's no difference, but you overnight, just like with the Moz thing, you now have this survival thing to where, like Tim said earlier, we now all 5 of us are Neanderthals. We literally have zero ability to compete with these now superhumans because they can calculate things faster. They can solve problems faster. And the time it takes the 5 of us to figure out how to put something together, they've already established it and they're already gone.
But can we agree that you can't really these Neuralink, computer-based, whatever it is in the future, can we not classify them as humans? Because my personal opinion is the reason why we are human is the emotional component, and none of these things have an emotional component. You cannot program emotional. You cannot.
Well, it's not AI. It would be just like if all 5 of us decided to hook up to Neuralink. We now, just like in the multiverse,
watching porn right now.
Yeah.
Why are you guys smiling so much?
Why are you guys all of a sudden, why have you guys all of a sudden, turned into quagmires? Giggity.
Hey,
but
Chris.
it's just, you could see just literally at that Y point, if you do the multiverse thing, the 5 of us with Neuralink would immediately diverge from the 5 of us without. We'd still have the emotional abilities that we have. We would just, instead of like, oh God, can you remember? I can't remember that movie. No, we'd already know the answer to that question. We'd already know, and that entertainment side, like I said, would instantly be elevated. And that's what I said. We'd still have the emotional thing. It just, and that's kind of tying back to like with the mimics thing. That's where it would be so easy for somebody that had that connection part. They would come back and they would seem, otherworldly. But they would look like us, but they wouldn't be us.
But we're talking about here is technological enhancement. What if at least some of the others are that next step in human evolution that, it started out small thousands of years ago, where people are born, they're not Homo sapiens. They're the next thing above us. They're a completely different species with those abilities naturally, like Neuralinks, but naturally. And we've seen examples in some psychics, who are able to, use telekinesis and other abilities. But what if some of these people are being born every year and the number just keeps increasing with these natural abilities?
Well, that's where the star children come into play.
Yeah.
And these are supposed to be bred between humans and aliens. And these children have a larger cranium and they're smarter. They use more percentage of their brain, if not, 90 or whatever, 100% of their brain. And that's a natural progression. Well, technically it's a natural progression because it's between a species and a species. But who's to say, we don't adapt the Darwin type of situation where we're like, the brain finally realizes it takes on those characteristics, like you said, of Neuralink or whatever. Mm-hmm. And we actually open up portions of our brain because we can now touch different parts of the universe or energies and pull it in. We are electric. So the connection between humans and electronics or AI or computers, it's already there. It's just maybe we adapt to survive at that point. Mm-hmm. And we don't have to have hardware in us. Right. Which would be great, actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, currently we still are using brains that were created to exist a million years ago. All right. Our brains were made to hide in the bushes so we don't get eaten by the tiger. And we still have that today. All right. That's really basically as far as we come. We've modified it a little bit, so instead of hiding in the bush so not to get eaten by a tiger, it's, you learn to cross the street without getting, hit by a truck. All right. So that next step is, like you said, it would be like you were technologically enhanced, but your mind is then open to the universe, to all of those possibilities that we've only been getting hints of.
Right.
And I think that possibly, now not all of the cases, as we've discussed in the book with the others, but some of these cases I think are individuals that have taken that step, that if we managed to get a hold of them and actually test their DNA and genetic structure, we would see that they're related to us, but they're not.
Yeah.
Not complete. They're not completely human. Maybe able to breed, maybe not. Maybe it would just produce, like a mule, so to speak. But I'm just saying that I think that possibly within the next 50 to 100 years, we're going to our eyes are going to be open more and more that this is becoming a reality. We're getting hints of it now. Right now, we're kind of clouding it all up with conspiracies and misinformation and aliens from other planets and things like that. Which, again, some of these things, could very well be happening just as well. I'm not going to exclude those, but I do think that there is another race of humans on this planet that is going to overtake us eventually.
I mean, look at people that raise their vibration. That's what they call. They unlock the pineal gland, then they start doing the gifts that God gave us.
Mm-hmm.
When God created humans in man's image, man in his image, part of that is taking the abilities that he's all connected with. We're don't necessarily have to go to a worship hall, church, temple, synagogue, whatever, to communicate to God. And when you actually unlock and use more of your pineal gland, maybe that you don't use just 2% of your brain, maybe now you're using 15. I'm thoroughly convinced that if we got to even a 50% level, we'd be able to manipulate our molecular structure enough that we can travel. So,
yep.
So do you think, so do you think the Among Us or the people who are cloned, do you think that they know personally that they're a clone? Because if they submitted their DNA to Ancestry, one of the DNAs, wonder what it would come back. Do you think they know personally that they're just living amongst us?
The whole clone aspect of this, it I suppose it really all depends on the creators and what the purpose is. Okay, say for instance that this is some kind of government thing that started just right after the end of World War II. That somehow and maybe it was research that the Nazis were doing for the end of the war that the West then got a hold of and were able to start cloning people. Well, this would be something. It would be almost like that television show The Pretender, where he wasn't a clone, but you could actually raise these clones to be just like the very best that they could be, athletic, intellectuals, whatever, and then send them out to do what you would want, what you need them or want them to do. So in a scenario like that, yes, they probably would know what they were up to. I would seriously doubt that, say, some government or corporate entity would go to the trouble to clone people and then just set them loose without any kind of purpose or them knowing, what's going on. And, unless there'd been like an explosion or something at their factory and they all got out and got away and scampered off into the woods. So, I mean, none of this would happens by accident, I would think. So, if there is an actual cloning scenario going on, then yeah, I mean, there would be a purpose for it, and those who have been cloned would probably know that they have been. Okay, and then thought just occurred to me, unless it's like that bad movie. What was it? I think it's called Clonus, where the clones were being raised basically just to provide organs for their rich donors. Then they probably wouldn't know, because I don't think you would live a very good life knowing that you're going to be harvested when the original needs a new heart.
I mean, I would think that if we got to the point where we were cloning people, then we would be programming the clone to know X, Y, and Z and to do certain things. It's a control factor. You can't just send something out there.
There you go.
And as far as I know the movie you're talking about with the harvesting. There's been plenty of scenarios, but what's very interesting, you don't even need a uterus anymore. You could actually have a virtual uterus and virtual babies being it's born in some kind of medical type bag situation. But if you were going to clone people for parts, you'd probably clone them without a brain. And make you drew the brain out of the situation, so there is no feeling or ethics involved in anything.
Yeah, well, and from what we know now, you wouldn't even have to grow the entire person. I mean, you could just grow the parts that you need. They're already doing that in an experimental fashion. So if we know that they're doing it in an experimental fashion, more than likely there's somebody somewhere who's perfected that technology.
I mean, they're doing that now with fake meat and at KFC and some other places. Yeah, I said that.
Well, there's this is kind of like what we were just talking about, but they created it was earlier this month they announced that they synthetic human embryo.
Yeah. I mean, I remember that in the movie Blade, they were taking people and harvesting them. I mean, I've seen them literally growing body parts on a machine or printing them. Like you need an ear, you print an ear.
Yeah, because the crazy part, like this one, is literally it says the scientists created using stem cells in a groundbreaking advance that sidesteps the needs for eggs or sperm.
Yeah.
They literally, the thing was, all lab created.
We're getting into a really, really, really bad area, and I don't.
And this it was kind of the whole thing like meant this is where you have it's like these are going to be, is that going to be human at that point?
And what rights would they have?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, the same discussions took place in the 1970s when it was discovered that Stalin was trying to breed humans and I think at the time gorillas. Later it was chimpanzees. At the time, they didn't realize that chimps were closer genetically to people than gorillas. So they were trying to breed, like a gorilla human hybrid. Well, when this was discovered in the 70s, the discussion came out, if this was possible, would this hybrid be classified as human?
Right.
And it's chimps are close enough genetically to humans that with probably just very little manipulation, you probably could actually create a chimp human hybrid. But again, that the legalese on whether or not this would actually be human or classified as human or have rights as a human, that goes into a gray area. I mean, don't forget, it wasn't that long ago when certain
Exactly,
races
tough.
on this planet weren't even allowed to be classified as human. So if you have something that is a hybrid between, a chimp and a person, then it's
Yeah, I just quoted that whole scene when
Yeah.
Charlton Heston sings the Statue of Liberty. Damn you!
In one of the sequels, I can't remember which one it was. Probably the third one, where they actually Cornelius and his wife come to Earth in modern times. Then there was that discussion on whether or not these things would be classified as intelligent or have the rights that humans did.
And the last scene of that, I believe in that episode, that movie, we went to black, and all you heard was the baby going, "Mama,
yeah,
mama." That was pretty cool. Yeah,
yeah. Well, and that's. And more we're going to be faced with those kind of conundrums if the continued development of genetic and DNA technology continues along the lines is just exactly what you showed from what just happened a couple months ago. These kinds of manipulations, and we were discussing clones, and I think that if cloning technology, and it's not that difficult, really, from what I've read, it's really not that hard. If it was developed, say, back in maybe as far back as the late 50s, maybe the early 60s, you would have to go and grow a complete human. Now we don't even have to do that. You just sidestep that completely to avoid that conundrum. But with the possibility that you could start combining human DNA with all kinds of other creatures on this planet
they're doing it now
for whatever reasons. Yeah, I
they're
mean,
doing it now with animals and glow in the dark jellyfish.
Right.
I mean, it's just, I think it's out of control, and this is like the classics. We talked about civilizations last week, and I think we've gone through multiple millions of years where we have a civilization that goes to one point, does something stupid, blows up, then it starts again, then you get a little bit further, blows up. We're in a dangerous area there, and to think that if we talk, take the mimic concept, which is your book, and we put it into this. I mean, what percentage of the people within the government already knew about the mimics? They are real, had caught them and said, well, let me see how they're doing that. And now we're starting to or clone them or replicate it, back engineer one. It's pretty scary.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if these things are that easily caught. And again, the book, we're trying to come up with kind of like a unified field theory almost of all of these different kinds of occurrences that have the one factor, and that one main factor is the human appearance of these things, and the idea that at least some of them have the ability to mingle with it. Albeit for short periods of time. So and again, it's like, is it because they're paranormal, supernatural entities, things from other times, other dimensions, other species, on the planet? If we are dealing with another species on the planet that looks like us, then yes, that idea that they could be caught by the government or the military and then used for, all kinds of nefarious purposes, is that's a viable idea. And is not outside the threshold of possibility. But I think that the majority of a lot of the cases that we examine in this book tend to have and I hate to use the word paranormal because we really don't have any other better words for that. But so I have to use the word paranormal because these things seem to have that ability to appear when they want to be seen and then disappear when they don't want to be seen. They'll come knocking on your door for whatever reason to talk with you, and then turn around and disappear completely. So for want of a better word, we're going to have to use the word paranormal.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't. Paranormal doesn't bother to me. Like the one that I feel is really way overused. And the guy below me uses it a few times. I let it slide though. Boots on the ground.
I use that all the time.
Yeah, that one for me is just that was like the nails on the chalkboard. I don't know why, but it's one for it's like it's so overused, and I think it's because I think there's a lot of people that I want to say it's mainly because the people that don't do their due diligence when it comes to like the scientific side of investigations, that it's just a go-to. Well, you're not boots on the ground. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I can throw shoes on and go out in the woods. That doesn't make me, the next coming of Jesus Christ, when it comes to Bigfoot research. I go, there has to be something, it's the same way. It's like paranormal. You have all these things. There's got to be, so I digress. But yeah, that was one of the, like, I always do. It's just, for some reason, that term, I'm just like,
oh, I agree with you. But as somebody, when I say boots on the ground, I'm actually, in the field, spending nights there in some of the most disgusting areas ever. There are also other people that are boots on the ground in the scientific community when you bring them evidence and they're working, and that's boots on the ground. But then the reason why it's said is because everybody can have a story. Everybody can retell stories or hear some stuff, but they're not out there doing it's one thing to be a mimic and just mimic what someone else told in another story. It's another thing for like, well, we're going out for this investigation. It's going to be 2 days. And, make sure you have your long johns and all this other equipment out there. That's boots on the ground. But I agree with you. I mean,
then there's Bobo laying out bacon, ho-hos,
that's
Doritos, all the stuff.
Show.
Yeah, just laying all the stuff on the tree because I know this is his favorite food. You're like, how? How do you know this is the stuff? I mean, I get it. It's camping food. There's a great chance, yes, that is the food source. Yes. I go, the definitive, this is the favorite snack. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that was your favorite part from the craft table.
Yeah, that was the favorite snack. Well, between boots on the ground and when people go Occam's razor, Occam's razor drives me absolutely nuts. So.
Yeah, that one gets misused a lot.
Oh, yes it does.
Well, with me and paranormal, I hate to use that a lot of times because for a lot of people they just automatically go to say like ghost. That paranormal means ghost, and that's not what we're exactly talking about, but
Yeah, I think it's just basically there's no set. I mean, it's hard. It's like because it's not an official field. It's like have set guidelines. There's not really a set, criteria when it comes to doing things because you're literally most people you're going out with a camera trying to capture something.
Yep. I mean, it's I think a great word. I mean, I use paranormal to encompass everything. It used to be paranormal was like ghosts, in my opinion, initially, and then it went to cryptids and what have you. In the past, it would have been mysterious beasts, or whatever. But I think a good term to kind of sum up all of it is high strangeness.
Yeah.
And that kind of gives you like, well, there's things that are strange here. We don't know exactly what's going on. Because are we really hunting ghosts or you're not hunting anything. You're just investigating it. It sounds better because they have ghost hunters on TV,
So, all right. Well, as we're running out, so final thoughts. Tom, what do you got?
There's a lot going on in this world, as was mentioned as well. You also have your fallen angels, entities, demons that can mimic people, and you just got to watch out and be careful what's going on and just be cautious, be diligent, and just kind of pay attention to what's going on. Because, like I said, we're at the final hours. We're at the 13th hour right now, what we're living in, and there's just so much negativity going on, so much things that we can't explain or cannot be processed. And if you're not paying attention, something might get a grip on you or whatever, and you might get in trouble. So just be careful out there, people. There's so much going on, and just be prayed up, and be right with God.
Am I next with final thoughts?
You are.
Okay, so my final thoughts are this Saturday from 7 to probably 10 p.m. in Pine Bush, New York, at the UFO Paranormal Museum. I'll be doing a Dogman presentation, and you can get this lovely T-shirt with the New York State Dogman Project on there. Pick that up, and it should be fun with Al Santariga, who just became a grandpa. Congratulations to him. And I'm with Tom on the spiritual stuff. Look, you can worship a head of lettuce. I don't care, but you got to get right with God. You really do. Whoever your God is, and life would be a lot better.
Go see Brian and Al there, and go get your Jello shots and see how long it takes before the shirts come off.
Who's got Jello shots?
I'm bringing them. No.
Yeah, that's all right. I said so, but Tim, like I said, I'm going to bring it up on the screen here again too. So
yes,
the book that we've been discussing, the topic, Mimics, The Others Among Us. So by Tim R. Swartz and Sean Castile, and a large cast of other contributors as well. They're all there on the bottom too, and including the late Tim Beckley. So it's what definitely you can pick that up at Amazon. I'm going to bring that up on screen as well. So Rick, you can go there real quick. Like I said, click, and if you got Prime delivery, you can have that. You can have that as early, depending on where you live, Saturday, possibly even sooner, depending on where you're at. It's like are some of these things, depending on where it's at, I can get it the next day. Being here in the Orlando area, it's pretty cool. It's Amazon sure changed our lives, did it not?
It did.
Oh, it's evil. It's a mimic.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's one of those things. Just kind of like what we talked about with the Neuralink. It's the pros and cons. It's like the benefits. Do they outweigh the negatives? It's like the fact that I can get the book delivered to my house where I don't even have to get dressed and have the book. Does that outweigh the fact that I really should go to the local bookstore and get it signed by Tim and buy it there?
I mean, everything is actually contributing to obesity. If you could sit home and order Uber Eats, DoorDash, books, everything, you don't have to go anywhere. You burn less calories just sitting home.
Yeah, I don't know how many calories I burn when I drive to McDonald's and buy it and bring it home.
Or if you order a Japanese sex doll, you're not really well.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ron.
Virgil was talking about that. Got one off Amazon.
And it got delivered to the neighbor's house.
And it got a virus.
Wow. Oh my God. See, Tim, aren't you glad? Aren't you glad you came back?
I am. I know. I enjoy this discussion, actually.
That's what we try to do. We try to be different, to where it's not just the run of the mill. It's like these aren't the questions you expect.
You can be serious, but also have fun doing it.
That's right.
Exactly.
This is the kind of conversation where you're hanging out, whether you're at a bar or a friend's house, you're talking about this fun stuff. You make a couple of jokes here, but we're serious about it. But we're also, you got to have fun. It's entertainment part, That's what it is.
That's right. That's why I like doing this. It's a serious discussion, but I love to have fun as well.
There you go.
So definitely, I said really appreciate you coming on, sir. Again, because I said fantastic book. I highly recommend everybody go pick this one up. This one, it is a really interesting read. It's not one of those, ones where it's just like this, like you're reading an encyclopedia. They're actually, the way you guys laid it out was really good. And like I said, I had to be told to go to sleep a couple of nights, because I was just staying up too late, reading. But that's yeah, Mimics, The Others Among Us. That was just came out March 11th. So definitely go take that when you're over there at Amazon. Make sure you click, follow for Sean and Tim, so that way they can get recognition that people are looking at them up, on that, because that always helps, when you follow and give reviews.
Yeah, definitely. If you get a copy of the book from Amazon and you like the book, give us a good review.
Even if you don't like the book, give a good review.
Well, I mean, I'm going to be fair about it. If you didn't like the book, then don't review it. But if you liked it, give it a good review.
And that's it's the same way. Just like you said, laughter is the one. I mean, even with all the undertones, like people are saying, Monsters Inc. What did they find out was the most powerful source? Laughter.
Laughter.
Right.
That generated more power than the fear. So so that's definitely, but everybody go buy the book, support him. Tim, thank you for coming on. Tom, thank you for coming on. Go check him out on YouTube and Facebook, North Carolina Cryptids and Paranormal Project. You can also, the offshoot one was with Carlito, Cryptid and Paranormal Kingdom that you guys had, it's like you guys are still connected that way. So, support those two. Sir Brian and Bowden, Templar, Mason, Closet Illuminati, Pie.
I'm not a closet Illuminati. So.
Yeah, no, go check them out. They're at that conference there. Listen to their presentation with him and Al.
Yeah.
Go support them. Into the Goblin Universe. Go check that out. Like I said, go meet up with him on Facebook. Same thing. He's got a long list. His bio. We'd be here for about 10 minutes if I read over the entire bio. And if you listen to Dave Scott, he's got probably about 12,000 podcasts. So
no, I don't.
Yes. Yeah. But he's a kitchen Illuminati.
I've included 3 beards in my link tree. So. Yep,
we've made the list. We've made the list.
You guys are great, and I'm thankful to be asked on is an honor, and to be with you guys. You guys are fantastic, and I think we've gotten brotherly, so that's all that matters. Exactly. All of us, including Tom down there.
Absolutely.
Yes, I know. It's really great. I think coming up on the calendar, next month is when we're going to have boys back on. The Golden Corralios on August 9th.
Dude, if he's at freaking, Golden Corral, he better just put his damn smartphone on. He can eat his fried shrimp and go to the chocolate bar.
Fountain.
Yeah, chocolate fountain. Dip that fried shrimp in there, whatever.
The booger fountain, where you'd be like,
no. We're not going to go into that now.
I can't do the buffets.
The booger fountain.
Oh, yeah. So Richard Eastep is on next week. I'm talking American grifters, frauds, and crooks.
So we're talking about the president right now.
I think we're also going to be talking about a few people that are that were part of a televangelist group too.
I have sinned.
PTL, man, PTL.
Yep. How these people have gigantic palaces basically, and plead up there for little old ladies to send in their Social Security checks.
Life saving.
Yeah. And it's it's just meanwhile they've got a 10,000 square foot mansion, private planes. That's part of it. Obviously got to talk about the Madoffs and the other ones that really come in. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Do we want to talk about the new Three Beards mug that's coming out?
Oh God! Yeah, burn that thing. Ceremonial fire.
All right,
guys. The sippy cup.
All right, guys. Well, hey, I said have a great night. Thanks. I'm going to actually be able to press the thing the right time now. But yeah, everybody, we are rebroadcast on ERT Radio, the proud sponsor of the program, courtesy Ron, every Wednesday at 11 p.m. So you just go to Mixler.com, set up your account. Thank him for doing that. I said that he's got that clock, the hats. He's got some other merchandise that you can go to support them as well. But main thing that's really going to help him, just go set up that account at Mixler.com. It takes just a couple minutes. Go set that up and just subscribe to ERT Radio, and then you can follow our show. Get that too. So that's ERRT Radio.
Hurtling.
Mixler.com. Mixlr.com. Go there. So check that out. So make sure you go support everybody. Buy the book. Leave a review. Help them and tell them thank you for being on here. So everybody, thanks for coming on. We will see you on the next show. Good night.
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.